Yesterday afternoon, I had 2 additional meetings added to my calendar here on campus that came up last minute. And since my office is off campus, about 30 minutes away, the best place for me to do this was from my car. And I am sitting in a parking garage that happens to be in the same flight pattern as our airport. And so I apologize for all the strange background noise that you're going to hear. But thank goodness for MiFi units that are good enough that we can do things like this. So first of all, welcome to everyone, and I'm excited to be able to work with each of you in the coming year as board members for our National Association of Extension 4-H Agents Association. Jim Thompson and John Meadle work for us in the Capitol Hill Management, and their office is actually in Raleigh, North Carolina. I just got a text from Jim saying that John's power was out, so he may or may not be able to join us today. Jim is hoping that his power is going to stay on throughout this conference. So if we should happen to get cut off, know that it's because of the power outage that Jim has. And let's keep all, and if that happens, then we'll just have to cut it off, because Jim's the one that has the controls for Zoom. And let's all of us keep everybody in along the East Coast in our prayers that there's not a lot of damage, injury, or loss of life. And so the next slide, Jim has the list of new board members. And so what I would like to do, Jim, if you can advance that, there we go. Let's just go around and introduce everybody. And so I have all the new board members that are listed. I know we also have some other current board members who will be staying on next year, serving in their second year, that are on here as well. But I'll just start off introducing myself as Tony Carroll, and I'll be serving as your president, and look forward to working with you. And I work in the State 4-H office at Purdue University in Indiana. So let's start with Kaya, and we'll move on down the list.
Good afternoon. I'm Kaya Harries, and I was recently elected as president-elect. I am with the University of Minnesota, and I serve as an Extension Regional Director and am housed in an off-campus location in Southwest Minnesota. Looking forward to the year ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Chris View. I'm a 4-H youth development educator half-time, and the other half is a state 4-H program liaison supporting colleagues with many of the different functions in their roles, especially onboarding new colleagues. So I was recently elected to finish out the remaining year of a 2-year term after filling for VP in Finance of Operations, after filling a vacancy starting last February. So I will have the opportunity to continue on in that role.
Mary, are you with us? Okay, Melanie?
I think Mary is overseas currently.
Okay, Melanie?
Hi, everybody. I'm Melanie. I'm in New York. If you didn't hear me before, I have a camera that inappropriately zooms, so you may get to know my nostril more than you would like. So sorry about that. My hands are right here. They do nothing. But so I'm in the Northeast. I am very excited for this role. I have a lot of very strong NAE4-HA supporters here in New York. See, it's like, you can laugh. It's fine. I don't know what my camera does. And we're lucky to have past presidents, et cetera. I've heard the RD job is the best job out there, the most fun job out there. So I'm really excited to serve in this context and have really good support. I work in a county role, but I've done a lot of contracting with surrounding counties. So I've often taken on more of a regional role and am very involved in conversations about leadership at the New York State level as well.
Good afternoon, folks. Mitch Hoyer, Iowa State University, Iowa 4-H Youth Development Program. I'm part of our campus 4-H staff, so I work on the Iowa State University campus, working a wide variety of things. Parts of the state fair, come my direction. Not the livestock part, but essentially all the other parts. The rest of my day-to-day work is largely around a whole lot of our 4-H policies and regulations and guidance, and really support for all of our field staff throughout the state on where do we find this, how do we do this now that this happened, what is our procedure for, all kinds of things to hopefully keep us out of trouble, out of court, and provide great experiences for young people.
Heather, are you with us? Charles? Glenda? Oh, Charles, there he is.
Hey, good morning. I'm kind of having video difficulties, but just wanted to say good morning. My name is Charles Go. I am new this year and will be taking on the Western Regional Director position. I am a 4-H Youth Development Advisor out in Alameda and Contra Costa out in California. Basically, think about the East Bay out in California. If you fly into Oakland, that's my area. And I've been doing this job for quite a while now with the University of California. A 4-H advisor does all sorts of stuff depending on the number of staffing, but we are kind of a hybrid between 4-H agents and 4-H specialists, because we do research and so forth. So that's kind of a brief on me.
Glenda, are you with us today?
I am. My name is Glenda Booker. I'm in Tennessee. I have been a life member since the 1st of 2003, following my retirement in 2002. Although I have worked primarily part-time since then, currently I'm 4-H program assistant here in our county. I'm excited to go to Columbus. I remember when we were there before, it was a fun conference, and I'm looking forward to working with other people on both this committee and the board.
Cheryl? Neva?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Neva Baltzel. I am the Senior Resident Director of 4-H Camp Cherry Lake. So I do all things summer camp related, as well as helping develop policy for our state camping program. I'm super excited about our conference in just a couple of weeks and excited to work with all of you during the next year.
Matt? Okay, and I know that we have some other board members on the call who will be serving in their second year. And so let's just go around and introduce those as well.
Hello, I'm Brad Kunzman. I'm a 4-H educator, county educator in Pennsylvania, eastern side of the state, pretty much touch New Jersey. And I'm the Northeast Region Communications Director. Looking forward to continue working with the board and having a new partner in crime, Melanie, up in New York.
Hey everyone, I'm Brittany Teets. I'm from Georgia. I'm the 4-H agent in my county and also the county coordinator. So I coordinate all the staff members in my office. I'm right outside of Atlanta, about 30 miles southeast of Atlanta, and I am the Public Relations and Information Committee Chair. And this will be my second year in that role.
I'm Casey Mole. I am counting down the days until I am the immediate past president, and I don't think there's anybody more excited than me than Tony.
And then I also know that we have some staff members from our executive services staff at Capitol Hill Management. So let's start off with Jim.
Hey guys, this is Jim Thompson, the Executive Director for NAE4-HA, and looking forward to working with several of y'all this year.
this is John Meidel with Capitol Hill Management. I am your Associate Director for NAE4-HA.
Hi, this is Ralph Pizarro. I am the finance contact for NAE4-HA, and I work directly with your treasurer.
All right. Did I miss anybody?
Hi, this is Suzanne Board.
Go ahead. I heard a couple people say hey at the same time.
Hi, this is Suzanne Bortz, the Vice President of Programs. And this is Betty Gottler, retired extension agent from Auburn University in Alabama, and I am the archivist, and say that 5 times fast.
All right. Well, again, it's exciting to have all of you on the call, learning about your position and what our expectations are for next year and what our role is as board members as we steward the organization. So I always start off whenever I do presentations at counties or doing presentations with groups. I always like to remind everybody what our mission and vision is for 4-H. And so I think it's appropriate that we do that here with our association. And so just to give you history, about 3 years ago, the Board of Trustees went through a strategic planning process. And as part of that, they came up with a mission, what our strategy should be, and what they had as our vision for the association. And so as we go through this next year, I would just ask that as we steward our organization and help move it forward, to be able to be the best that we can be. Let's set aside our thoughts and biases for our state association, for our individual, and look at the total 4-H organization from a national level, and in particular, what is it that we can do from a professional development standpoint to make NAE4-HA the best program that it can be for our extension professionals, and we should be setting the bar so that instead of people asking, well, why should I join? It should be the question of, well, why would I not want to join this association? And so just a reminder there that our mission is that NAE4-HA is to be an inclusive, diverse organization that engages youth development professionals by providing the cutting edge professional development through a variety of delivery methods, encouraging leadership development and mentoring across generations, cultivating networking to strengthen positive youth development programming globally, and integrating the scholarship, research, and practice. And the vision of our organization is that we're going to be the global leader in building positive youth development professionals. And so in my mind, that's some pretty high standards that we need to live up to, and some pretty high marks that we need to try and strive forward to. I know that the board the last 2 years has done a really good job of trying to move us in that direction, and so we've got some big shoes to fill, but also lots of work yet to be done in order to be able to get there. Because hopefully, in another 2 to 3 years, we can say that yes, we've accomplished this strategic plan, and now it's time to reevaluate and move forward with what our new strategies are going to be. There you go. And so I think it's important that we also realize that we're not the sole people out there. We also have some partners on the national level that work with us. And so NIFA's job and National 4-H Headquarters job, their job is to basically, and in a nutshell, to protect the name and emblem, make sure that that's being utilized in a proper manner, and to look at civil rights and programmatic inclusion. National 4-H Council is the fundraising arm of our national partnership. Program Leaders Working Group, we have a great working relationship with them, and they provide the programmatic vision and direction. And then we also have scholarly publications with the Journal of Extension and Journal of Youth Development. And finally, our sister organizations all fall under one umbrella, which is the Joint Council of Extension Professionals, and they look at professional development for all of the cooperative extension service systems, and our role basically as an association in a nutshell is looking at professional development. How can we be able to provide professional development for those youth development professionals that are delivering 4-H educational programming. And the policies that we get into are only those policies that relate to association membership and services that we're going to provide to our members. And so sometimes the lines get blurred, and sometimes our discussions might steer off towards things related to 4-H Council or things related to 4-H National Headquarters or Program Leaders Working Group. And so we'll try and make sure that we all keep each other in check and make sure that our discussions are always centered around and come back to the professional development and whether the decisions we're about to make are going to help us move forward with our strategic plan. I also think it's important that we understand the governance structure. We have a very large board, but our board serves lots and lots of people. We actually serve about 3,800 members in our association, and so this governance structure is listed on our website. I would encourage you to review it, but basically we have the president, past president, and president-elect serving as the President's Council, who serve in a variety of roles and are representative to other organizations. And then they work with the executive committee, which is made up of all the vice presidents and the state relations chair. And so the executive committee works on a monthly basis to take care of any business that might come up association related between our face-to-face meetings or our full board meetings. And then you also see other voting members on there who would be the regional directors, the policy and resolutions committee chair, public relations information committee chair, etc. You can go on through there, and I'm not going to read them all to you because you guys are all smart enough to do that yourself. But then we also have the different task forces, working groups, and the programs that are listed down there as well. And we can add working groups at any time that is needed, and we can also if we have a working group that you're responsible for that's maybe outlived its purpose, then just bring that to the board and we can look at whether that needs to be replaced with something else or done away with, and we move on to new ventures. And so just wanted to give everybody a highlight and an overview of what our governance structure is like. I also think it's important, because in today's society, we have, we have to be concerned about legal and liability protections. And so I just want all of you to realize that you are protected as a board member. Not only, I would hope that your university would help provide some protection for you, but know that as an association, we carry a general liability insurance. We do have an indemnification clause that removes any personal liability from you with our association. We also carry officers and directors liability insurance. Legally, we are considered a not-for-profit corporation in the state of Maryland, and we also are considered a 501c6, which is the not-for-profit status with the Internal Revenue Service. C6 meaning that we provide educational services. We are not a C3, which is the not-for-profit that can provide tax exemption and tax benefits to donors. National 4-H Council is the 501c3 entity that we partner with to be able to do that. And so with that, as the Capitol Hill management staff introduced themselves, they kind of gave you a brief overview, but I'm going to turn it over to Jim so that he can introduce formally all of the staff that from their office that takes care of NAE4-HA on a day-to-day basis and helps us move along. I'll just say that the staff at Capitol Hill have been really, really good to work with. They have been with us now, what, Jim, 4 years, or are we getting ready to go on 5 years now?
Yeah, I was going to say in April, it'll be almost 5 years.
Yeah, and so you know, the way that they are set up, they have different divisions within their corporation that they can provide services to. Jim is our primary contact that then is able to, you know, if we need specific services, he's able to contact the different people within his organization to be able to do that. But really what they are set up to do is for us as a board to be able to look at the big picture and big visioning types and type of decisions. And then when it comes to actual day-to-day grunt work and individual tasks, they're able to do a lot of those individual tasks for us rather than us having to do them on our own, which has certainly not been the case in the past. So Jim, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Tony. And again, thank you all for taking their time to volunteer for this organization. You know, it means so much to have folks that are willing to give their time to their profession and serve on the board. So number one, I just appreciate you for doing that. When it comes to CHMS and our management services, one of the things I always like to refer to association management is if you've ever watched ducks going along the water, they always seem to look so graceful and everything looks so smooth, but you never really realize that underneath they're paddling like crazy to try to swim. So that's kind of the way I look at our association. You know, our people look at the organization and hopefully look at it's going very smoothly, but then behind the scenes, you know, you have your association management company sort of doing the work of the board. And as Tony alluded to that, you know, I think that's one of the things that it's very important for you guys to realize that, you know, as a board of directors, you know, our role really is to support you all in getting the work done that you put forth in your strategic plan. You obviously have your committees and your working groups that are getting work done as well. But primarily when it comes to a lot of the heavy lifting, that's really what you turn to the association management company for. You know, we have a lot of different people that work behind the scenes to do things. Some are obviously more out in front. I tend to be probably more out in front as your executive director. You know, working directly with the board on most of its strategic level activities. I kind of refer to myself sometimes as an air traffic controller, kind of just trying to make sure everything's moving in the proper places, that everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing. John Meidel, who's on the phone as well, is as the associate executive director for NAE4-HA. He is sort of my behind the scenes guy. I mean, he does everything operationally with managing the membership database, helping out with the conference with registration and exhibitor sponsorships, the website, communication. I mean, really, at the end of the day, he's my right-hand guy when it comes to getting a lot of the work done for the organization. Ralph, of course, he leads up our financial team. We also have financial folks on our staff that are kind of administrative in nature, but we do have a financial team that does a lot of work for us for CHMS. And then you also have the conference side of things. So just in the past, I guess it's been just in the past year and a half or so, when we first started working with NA4HA, we primarily were working with the association management, but over the past year and a half, we've actually also become your conference management too. So beginning with the 2018 conference and beyond, we're actually going to be the sort of the boots on the ground when it comes to managing the conference. You'll actually see at the upcoming board meeting in October in Columbus, we're actually going to be presenting the board with options for our 2021 conferences and looking beyond to that. So now we're actually we're working more closely with our conference management as well and kind of really giving you guys the complete package when it comes to association management. So anyway, that's kind of a sort of a broad perspective. But again, I just want to reiterate, you know, we really are the group that kind of helps you get the work of the board done, because like Tony said, you know, ultimately as a board member, your job is to be flying at a 30,000 foot level, thinking about the holistic organization, looking at the future of youth development, the youth development profession in not only the U.S. but beyond. So hopefully we allow you guys to really think strategically and let you guys do that, and then we kind of do the behind the scenes work to make you guys look good. So. I think that's about it, Tony, unless John or Ralph, you want to add in anything?
Okay, so let's move on then. Thank you. It helps if I unmute my mic. All right, and so you know, as a board, you know, not too many people realize what kind of finances we have. We are a very solvent organization, but it also, you know, in order for us to remain a solvent organization, we also need to be prudent with our funds. And so, as a board, we, you know, the July financial report showed that we have $970,000 in assets that we have to manage as a board, and we have to be good stewards to our members for that. And so, you know, we get these financial reports that are put out, and some people, they're very easy to read because they're used to looking at reports that come out of QuickBooks. Other people, it may be a little bit difficult. So I've asked Ralph and Chris to be able to provide an overview of how we, you know, what is it that information is telling us, and how can we interpret those financial reports when they send them out. So I'll turn it over to Ralph and Chris at this point, please.
Okay, this is Ralph. Good afternoon. So, as Tony's saying, every month you'll receive a financial report, and over time we've tried to develop them so that they're easily understandable. I say that knowing that financial numbers aren't always easily understandable, as Tony referred to. If you're not used to looking at them, they wouldn't be. I like to take this opportunity as doing a board orientation just to let you know, as even though you have a treasurer, you have a president, you have officers, each board member has a fiduciary duty to ensure that the finances of the organization are being monitored. So when you get this report, it's not just another report of a long list of reports you get and just kind of glance through. I encourage you to take a look at it. I encourage you to ask questions, and what you would do is, if you have them ahead of time, forward them to either you know, probably Jim and Chris, and then they could be prepared to answer them during your board meeting, or if you have follow-up after a board meeting, please follow up with them, and we'll get you those answers. I feel much better when board members actually ask questions, because there's nothing to hide. We need to have transparency, and you need to understand as a board member where the finances are, and knowing that you're comfortable understanding that. So that is your kind of backdrop. The normal report you get is, first thing you get is a balance sheet, which indicates to you at a specific date what the assets and liabilities are of the organization. And our balance sheet for NAE is not that complicated, which is good. And like most associations, it's not. Like Tony said, you're in a good financial position. Your assets are cash in the bank, investments that are at the National 4-H Activities Fund level, and then investments that are NAEs at Raymond James that have just recently been moved in there in the last 3 months. The other thing you'll see down below in the other assets column is, so I'm going to try to explain this as easy as I can because it was complicated for me to understand the first time I went through this. The conference, the way things kind of used to run is every conference had their own bank account, and the association would forward them money, and then things would go on, and you have all the conference money running through here, and it didn't, to us, it wasn't a good control, because in the end, even though everyone talks about the conference and the association, the conference is part of the association, and the association has to be, and the board has to be responsible for that money. Now there's other levels down as to, you know, budgets for the conference that the committee handles, but the money for the conference now just runs through the association, and the treasurer now approves every expenditure for the association. I mean, excuse me, for the conference and the association, but specifically for the conference. with approvals down below from conference committee people. So you'll see when you get your financials, there's something called loans to conference. And sometimes, like in July, that number is a really big negative number. Well, that negative 300,000 is a net number. So what that means is we've taken money in for the conference and registrations, and we've spent some money out. And through July 31st, that is basically showing that we've taken in 300,000 more than what we paid out. But that's not just for this 2018 conference. The revenue is, but we do have some advance expenses for 19 and 20, I know, in there, just deposits on certain things. So what happens, and Tony knows this because we went through this recently, at the end of the conference, we go through and we reconcile everything. We make sure everything balances out. We get with the conference chair and make sure that all the records agree. We have everything, and then we distribute what the conference reports are. So that's a big number in what you see there. As far as liabilities go, thankfully, there's very little. We pay bills every week, and that's to ensure that, one, that when, especially board members and the people that do state relations a lot, do a lot of traveling, that you get reimbursed as quickly as possible. There's a process to go through that your expense report gets submitted, your treasurer reviews it, and then we process it for the treasurer to approve. We don't write manual checks, hardly ever. Everything's done through electronic bill pay system through the bank, and you'll receive a check that way. And we do it every week just so everybody can get out and get things done quickly and efficiently. So you'll see there our liabilities are, let's call your current liabilities is $2,200. It's just some miscellaneous things that have come in, maybe have not been paid yet, but we never try to hold things. We do hold things when we need to hold things, when there's a question. And, that goes to the treasurer's responsibility and currently Chris's responsibility of, I have a question on this, let's hold this until I'm more comfortable, which is appropriate and expected. And then we find the answer. That doesn't happen often because there is a process ahead of time, so we could actually answer those questions to Chris and say, okay, it's for this, this, or that. So, and then equity, the simplest way to, in a not-for-profit, it's really called, you've probably seen in other things, unrestricted net assets or restricted net assets. The total equity area is basically, think of every dollar taken in and every dollar expended of the organization from beginning of the organization up to this date. That's really what equity is. So that's a very simple way, but I think that's a good way to think about it. So that's your balance sheet. The next report you get is called Profit and Loss Budget versus Actual Summary. So you'll see after we get to this page, there's a lot of pages of detail. But in keeping with trying to, as a board, you look at the higher level, this summary serves that purpose. So what this summary does is say, where are we at through, this date and time, in this case is January through July. Where are we with our revenue compared to what we budgeted for the year? Where are we in these different areas of our expenses? And this is for, the VPs. You'll see your area is there. And you'll be tasked with taking a look at it, saying, I would look at this and say, okay, why is my number off? And, if I'm the VP of Finance and Operations, I look and say, okay, I've spent 53% of my budget through slightly over half the year. Okay, that's reasonable. But if I had a question as to why, I'd flip to the next report, and then you'll see all the detail. And you'll see where all the money's been expended. And that's where you come up with your questions and say, wait, I thought we did this month. I thought we spent something else for here that month. So these in conjunction help you take a global look to see where is the organization going based on their budget for the year. And then two, try to help you answer questions by looking at the detail. And then if you still don't have your answers, then say, okay, why is this? And that's when you'd go to Chris, Jim, and us, and we would answer those questions for you. So these are the tools that you would use. And then the last report, which starts a few pages later, is also a detailed report, but it's a year-to-year comparison. So where were we this year compared to where were we last year at the same time? That's useful in a lot of different ways, because you could take a look at it and say, well, why are we up? And why are we down, ridiculous numbers? And some of it could be timing, and some of it could be things weren't spent yet. Some of it could be just we went in a different direction. But those are good reports to reference and say, okay, where are we going from here and there? So these are all the things that you take a look at when you have financials. And like I said, questions are encouraged. I could tell you I get a little nervous when I don't get a lot of questions throughout the year, just because I know we do good work, trust me. And the thing is that I would ask people I expect people to ask questions, and you should ask questions. You need to be comfortable with it. By the time these financials get to you, I'm comfortable with them, and we're comfortable with them internally. Jim has looked at them. John has looked at them. We know where we're comfortable with. Not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but we're comfortable with everything that we've done. You have to be comfortable with them, because in the end, we help you prepare them. We do the day-to-day work, yes, but they're your financial reports, not ours. We're a team. We're a partner. In the end, you have the fiduciary duty. And we try and make it so that you are as comfortable as anyone can be with your fiduciary duty, knowing that, yes, our finances are in good hands. So that's kind of my short and long of accounting and financial reporting. Chris, if you'd like to add anything from your perspective as the treasurer.
I guess the only thing that I would add is that for having opportunities to be on the board in previous roles and then in this role is to really appreciate and the value that we as an association are getting from our payment for executive services. It really is a great value because of the processes in place, especially on the financial side. Do allow for this amount of detail that Ralph went into, and allow us to be transparent and thorough in the work and be good stewards of our resources. In that, there are chances where if everybody has all of their ducks in a row, then we can get payments turned around pretty quickly in an efficient manner within 1 to 2 weeks. And if not, there is a really good set of checks and balances to make sure that we are meeting within our within our ranges, within our own financial policy, to make sure that these are acceptable expenses and that we have all of the documentation that we need, so that I'm comfortable in approving a payment, and then goes to the next step for the checks, the checks to be cut and to go out and that they're within our budget. So that said, I also know that there's opportunity to continue to improve and to clear up what our line items are and possibly relabel and make things so that they're incredibly user friendly. And that is a process because it's a lot of work has been done to get to that point. So just one of those things that this is a great partnership to make sure that we do have this opportunity to be transparent and to be good stewards of our financial resources, so that we can then do all of the other great things to meet our mission and vision as far as being a professional development organization. So that's just my thoughts, my perspective. And many of the individuals on this call will have an opportunity to act on the budget, as that will be brought to the transition board meeting, and we'll have an opportunity to review that. So that'll be one of those other first pieces that we'll have that opportunity to do, because I'm working on that right now.
Well, thanks, Chris and Ralph. And Ralph, you did a fantastic job explaining our financial report. Appreciate that very much. And so, you know, as Chris alluded to, one of the things that we will be voting on, and those of you new to the board, you're one of the first things that you'll be looking at will be our budget. And so that'll be voted on during the time that we are in Columbus. And so if you have questions about the budget, if you have questions about the financial report at any time, again, I just want to reiterate what Ralph said multiple times. Please, please, please ask rather than just assuming that everything's okay. And so I don't have it in here, but I'm going to go ahead and stop right here just for a minute to see if there are any questions that you want to throw out at Ralph or Chris, because this is a big responsibility for each of us as individuals on the board. And there were a couple of questions that came in through the chat, but let's go ahead and open it up to any questions that anyone might have at this point.
Tony, this is Charles. I have a question around the budget. So the budget that we're going to be approving is for this current year, it sounds like. Is that correct? For this period of July 1st, 2018 to June 30th, 2019.
Yeah,
is that correct?
So we run on a calendar year fiscal basis, so January 1 to December 31. And so Chris will be presenting to us at our pre-conference board meeting in Columbus what our budget would be for the calendar year 2019. And so one of the things that will show up on the consent calendar to be approved by the board at their Sunday morning meeting will be to approve the budget for calendar year 2019. And so and so then that's what we're, you know, if that budget is accepted, then that's what will fall within as we operate from January 1 to December 31 of 2019. And so if you have expenditures that fall within that budgeted amount, then Chris goes ahead and approves them without any problem. If we as a board or you as an individual team come up with expenditures that are not already within that budget, then it has to, it has to come to the executive committee for an additional appropriation and approval before he can pay it. Chris, did I say that right? Okay, he's shaking his head. Other questions?
So actually, as a follow-up, so it sounds like there was already a budget that was approved for this year. And is that possible for me to get a copy of? Because I'm kind of new.
Absolutely. The financial report that you saw that there were several columns, and one of those columns was year to date, and another column was budget. And so that's the budget that we're following. But if you'd like to have an individual budget without any of that other information, Jim and Ralph will be glad to get that sent out to you.
Okay, so maybe I'm confused, because what you say here is that when it says budget, is that the budget for January to July 2018? That doesn't reflect the full calendar year then.
No, and so this was the financial report in July, and so it shows all of our expenses from January 1 through the end of July, and then it shows that comparison, that 53% number that Ralph used as an example. That shows that 53% of that budgeted line item has been spent, and so we're halfway through the year, and so that's a pretty good target to utilize. Ralph, can you explain further, please?
Yeah, that budget column that you see is the budget for the calendar year 2018. So I believe that's what your question was. So that while the January through July 18 is the actual amounts for those 7 months, the budget column is your budget for the entire year. So that's what we're comparing to, where we are through the first 7 months compared to where we expect to be for the entire year.
I see. And this is on page 2, is that correct?
Yes, the summary one is on page 2, and then if you look starting on page 3 to page 6 is the detail budget, which will go down, give you more detail in each of those larger areas.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions?
Yeah, I had a question. This is Melanie. Something that recently came up, we're very excited. We're going to be hosting Brad as our regional director in New York soon. And one of the things I was surprised to learn was that National will cover the travel expenses for RDs, but that the host states are required to cover the registration, lodging, et cetera. And I wanted to just know a little bit more. One of the things that I'm most excited about as an RD is being able to go out and make those visits. And I wouldn't want states having to cover that on their own to be a financial burden to some of the states, especially in the Northeast, that I know to be struggling a little. So I just wanted to hear more just from the board perspective about why does National cover the travel but not the lodging registration and other things that may be required to make the RD visits? And is there any way to petition an increase in that amount for the budget for this year? I have a very limited understanding at this point, but would just like to know more about that rationale.
Yeah, and so actually that's kind of a good segue into the next slide, in that part of that is explained in the handbooks that we have, but it's we want these state visits to be a partnership between the state association and the national association, and if there will be times that you'll have a state that hasn't had a visit for a number of years, and but also can't afford to pay the full part, but can pay a little bit. And so when those things come up, then we just look at it, present that to the executive committee to look at it on a case-by-case basis. So there is a little bit of wiggle room, but a lot of that is explained in the policies and procedures books that are located on the website. And so I'm going to turn it over to Jim and John to be able to go through and show us all the tools and resources that we have on the website. And we used to have about 8 or 9 different handbooks that we had to all thumb through and figure out what was going on and see if there were any discrepancies between them. But Jim and his staff did a really good job this past year of taking all of those and combining them into one document, so that if there's a question that we need to look up, just as the one that you have there, then we just have one place to go to. It also, they talked about a lot of travel and how to do reimbursements. That's also explained in there, and we'll go over that in more detail during the transition board meeting in Columbus. So Jim and John, we'll turn it over to you to show us our website.
All right, good. I'm just going to switch here screens here just to show you guys this. All right. So hopefully you've had a chance to get on our NAE4-HA website. If you go, just to kind of give you some perspective here, when you go on the website, and we've actually redesigned the website as of the conference last November, we went to a new membership database. So we have another opportunity to kind of like try to organize things a little better. So if you go, when you go to the website, if you go under support and then document library, you'll see several different things here. First off is action plans, which are actually each of your areas are supposed to develop a plan of work. So we'll talk more about that when we get through some of the transition meetings and talking with your other members of your team. But essentially that's kind of your plan for the year. You have your bylaws there. You also have various forms different liaison information, minutes. One of the things I highly encourage you all to do as board members, especially new board members, is to go back through and look at all those previous board minutes, just so you can kind of see an idea of some of the things that have been taking place before you guys got on board. The way we organize our board minutes, we obviously have all the different discussions and things like that took place, but also we have our consent calendar and recommendations. Consent calendars are things that are voted on that actually have to take place. Recommendations are things that aren't necessarily required to take place, but are, again, just recommendations. So I really encourage you to look at all the different recommendations that may have been made, because they may be some things that you may want to implement. But when it comes to the different handbooks, you can see we have a variety of things. And as Tony mentioned, we're going to be in the process of consolidating these handbooks. So you can see sort of what's existing now, but will also be consolidated in the future. You can also see here the various forms that we'll talk about, whether it's expense vouchers. You can see we've got membership forms on there. The plan of work template is on there. Various things like that. So those are kind of some of the big things that are important for you guys to realize. Also, and there's actually a YouTube video that I'm going to share with everybody, especially the new board members. When we created this new membership, when we went to a new membership database and a new website, we also have a private social network. I kind of call it sort of our own private LinkedIn, our own private Facebook community. Basically, what this enables us to do is to be able to go online. This enables us to go online and actually have a private community as a board. And within this community, there are actually different groups. And within these groups, there's actually one specifically for the board of directors. So you can see here, board of trustees. This is also a place where we can share documents and information. But that's also, again, just to kind of give you some sort of feedback for some of the different things. And again, I'll share with all of you a YouTube video that actually goes through and that talks about how to do this. This is like a 45-minute video, so we don't have time to obviously do that all today. But just kind of give you an idea of the different resources that are available to you via the NAE4-HA website, as well as the private social link community that's on the website as well. If anybody has any questions, feel free to throw them out. I know there's a lot of information for you guys.
Yeah, and so as you have questions today, go ahead and either type them in the chat box or write them down. We'll open up the mic here in a little bit because we're getting close to finishing up. We'll open up the mic to do some general questions as well. And then also, please don't hesitate to send myself or Jim or any of us emails letting us know what your questions are, because if you have a question, then somebody else is going to have the question as well. We also utilize Dropbox, and so if you can make sure that Jim has your Dropbox whatever it's needed, email or whatever, so that he can get you set up and access to that shared Dropbox, that would be great, because that's where we keep a lot of the documents as well as we get ready for board meetings. Okay, so Jim, if you can advance the next one, please. And so here's just a list of dates that we have coming up for your board year in 2018 and 19. That was sent out to you yesterday and also again this morning, because I learned last night that I had a mistake on there, because our conference, pre-conference board meeting next year is actually on Sunday and Monday, not the typical Saturday, Sunday that we have been accustomed to. So make sure that you get that changed and have your travel plans accordingly. And then, and Jim will be sending out all the Zoom information regarding all of our monthly meetings. And so finally, I just wanted to go over quickly what our role is as board members. You know, each of us have, regardless of whether we're a regional director or a vice president or a committee chair, each one of us have different tasks and duties that are responsible to our office. And so, you know, I would certainly ask you to go and look at your handbook and become familiar with that before you get to Columbus, and also make sure that you have a conversation with the person that you're replacing on the board, not just to get their insight, but also to find out what kinds of things are in the works that you can help continue to move forward. And more importantly, find out what kind of files that they have, electronic files that they've utilized, so that you're not having to reinvent the wheel. And if they've got a tickle file or a calendar of things that they normally tried to follow with regards to helping keep those duties and tasks organized, ask them to pass that along to you as well. Remember that we're representing 3,800 members, and you can see the breakdown there from this past year as to what our membership is like. And so just keep that in mind as you're making decisions and moving forward with your teams to accomplish the strategic plan that we have in place. And you know, as we're doing that, you know, we not only do we have liaisons on a board that we partner with on a regular basis, but we also have additional partners. And as we become a more inclusive association and start working with additional organizations like the National After School Association, then, you know, we need to do what we can to be able to foster those relationships so that we can continue to be a great viable partner, not only with those existing ones, but also with the new ones. And we and then, you know, I mentioned the inclusivity there. We always need to be doing that. But finally, we need to provide those services that that are necessary, so that as an association, we can be the leader in professional development for youth development professionals, regardless of whether they're 4-H educators or agents or 4-H professionals. But you know, we have other ways of delivering 4-H programming as well, and sometimes we'll rely on those professionals to help out. And there's no reason we can't invite those to be part of our association. But, you know, I just want to end up with, you know, the fact is sometimes, you know, we do have, as board members, we're presented with some issues where we have to make some really tough decisions as board members. And, you know, those 3,800 members elected us for a reason, and that reason is that they feel like we, each and every one of us, have the ability and the leadership skills necessary to keep our association not only afloat, but keep it moving forward and up to date to meet the needs of today's professional development opportunities that are needed within our field. And so we just need to remember that our membership elected us to do that on their behalf. And as we move forward, sometimes we are going to have some really tough decisions to make, and we need to be prepared to do that and not side skirt the issues and move forward. Some of those decisions are going to be gut wrenching, and some of them are going to be some no-brainers. And so, you know, with that, we're all gonna get along great, and we're all gonna continue to move forward. And I would hope that as a president of the association, I'm not leading the association for Tony Carroll. I'm leading the association to help bring all of us together as leaders of our association, so that we can make decisions in the best interest and continue to move our program forward. And so with that, I look forward to seeing everyone in Columbus, but I'm going to open up the mic for any questions that anyone might have. And at this point, I don't see anything in the chat box. Any questions? All right, with that, again, thank you for taking time out of your schedule to be on this meeting. Hopefully it helped out a little bit. Jim will send out the recording link. And so if you have questions, you can feel free to review this again, or look at the slides or whatever. But anyway, bottom line is I look forward to seeing everybody in Columbus in a few weeks, and safe travels. And again, let's keep everybody in our thoughts and prayers that are going through the natural disaster over on the East Coast, as well as, you know, I know that there are also lots of wildfires and things that are going on out on the western part of our western and southern part of our nation as well. So with that, everybody have a great day, and look forward to seeing you here in a few weeks. Bye now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tony.
Thanks, Tony.
Thanks, Tony.
Let's have a great week. Good weekend.
Thank you, Tony.
You're welcome. Bye now.